Ever wake up and like start your day
Hmm.
only to realize, wait a minute, I'm still in bed? It's
Yeah.
like that feeling of, wait, was I dreaming? That, my
Mhm.
friend, is a false awakening.
It's one of those weird things our brain does, right? Makes you
Yeah.
think you're awake when you're really not.
And we're going to dive deep into false awakenings today.
Absolutely.
And we've got some fascinating research to pick apart. I mean,
Yeah.
it's one thing to have a vivid dream,
Right.
but this is your brain convincing you
Hmm.
that you are awake and up and about.
Yeah. And it's not just a dream, right? It's like a whole other level because it feels real.
Yes.
This research was calling it like a complex state of consciousness.
I know, right?
Sounds pretty
It
intense.
sounds very official.
It really does.
So, okay, so say it's, early morning, you think you're up,
Right.
you're like going about maybe even starting your day.
Mm-hmm.
What are some things that would like tip you off
Yeah.
that you're actually still in dreamland?
Well, oftentimes it's those little things, right? Where you're doing your morning routine, but something is just a little bit off.
Yeah.
Like maybe your room looks a little different.
Oh, interesting.
Or the time on the clock is just completely wrong.
Oh, that's so funny you say that because
Yeah.
I woke up the other day and my bedside lamp was gone.
Really?
I could have sworn I left it right there, and then when I fully woke up,
Yeah.
it was back.
Wow.
I just thought I was tired.
Right.
But now I'm thinking, was that a false awakening?
It very well could have been.
That's a little unnerving.
Yeah, it's those little inconsistencies that can really make it feel so real, right?
Yeah,
Because our brains are really good at filling in the gaps,
that's true.
especially in a dream,
Uh,
so we don't even notice.
So it's not always like those crazy, vivid dreams
Yeah.
that we think of.
Exactly. It can be really mundane, everyday stuff, which is what we call type 1.
Okay, so that's type 1. So what's type 2?
Type 2 is where it gets a little more
Intense.
interesting. Yeah, more intense, yeah.
Okay, so type 1's like, that's weird. And type 2 is more like,
Right. It's where you get those really strange elements. Like, imagine you're dreaming you're being chased, or you encounter something that just fills you with this sense of dread,
oh gosh.
and you feel wide awake the whole time.
Yeah, like your brain just turns up the volume.
Yeah.
On the whole experience, like the fear is...
Yeah, and that's where like stress and anxiety can really play a role.
Oh, interesting. So those things can actually influence it.
They can.
Okay, so like if I'm really stressed, I might be more likely to have a type 2 false awakening.
It's possible. And anticipation, too, like when you're really looking forward to something.
Oh, like, I'm going on vacation. Exactly.
Keep-
Dreaming about it.
And your brain's already kind of in that mode.
Right.
So it's easier to slip into that dream state.
Oh, that's really interesting.
So yeah, if you're finding yourself having a lot of these intense false awakenings, it might be worth thinking about what's going on in your life.
Okay.
What might be causing that stress or anxiety?
So this is more than just a weird sleep thing.
Right,
It's
yeah.
like it can actually tell us something about what's going on in our lives.
Absolutely. It's like our subconscious is trying to tell us something.
That's fascinating.
It is. And the more we learn about it, the more we realize just how complex our brains really are.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like we're talking about our brains creating these whole realities
Yeah.
that we
Yeah.
believe for a time.
Yeah.
It makes you kind of question like,
It's true.
what even is real?
Yes.
Right. Like, how do we know?
Yeah. It really makes you appreciate
Yeah.
how powerful our brains are.
Right. Like even when we're sleeping,
Yeah. Even when they're supposed to be resting.
it's still hard at work.
Yeah. Crafting these like crazy, vivid experiences.
And you know what I find really interesting
What's that?
is how real they feel.
Oh, absolutely.
Like it's not just what we see.
Right.
It's like all of our senses are involved, right?
It's the whole package. And I think that's what makes it
Yeah.
so easy to get tricked by.
Like I was reading in the research about how vivid smells can be in dreams.
Oh, totally.
Or like even the temperature. Like
oh, yeah.
if you feel cold,
Right?
it feels real.
It's like your brain is going all out to convince you
Yeah.
that this is actually happening.
And then you add on that emotional intensity we were talking about earlier.
Absolutely.
Like no wonder it's so easy to get swept up.
Right, because you're not just seeing it.
Yeah.
You're feeling it.
Right.
Totally immersed.
So from a brainwave activity,
Yeah.
what's going on there?
Well, they found that during a false awakening, your brain waves will actually fluctuate between theta waves,
Okay.
which is what you see in REM sleep.
Okay. Yeah.
So that's where most of our dreaming happens,
Right.
in alpha waves,
Okay.
which are more common in a relaxed waking state.
Interesting. So it's like it's caught
It's like it's caught in between.
in between.
Yeah,
Not quite asleep.
not quite awake.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a weird in-between zone.
So that probably contributes to that confusion a lot of people feel.
Oh, absolutely.
Right?
Yeah, because your brain's basically trying to switch gears,
Yeah.
but it's getting stuck.
Oh, that makes sense.
And you know what's even more interesting?
What's that?
There's actually a link
Okay.
between false awakenings
Yeah.
and sleep paralysis.
Oh, okay. Now we're getting to the really creepy stuff.
Yeah.
I always thought those were totally separate things.
They are their own separate phenomena,
Okay.
but they can happen together.
Okay.
And when they do,
Yeah.
it can be a particularly unsettling experience.
So for those who don't know,
Yeah.
remind us what sleep paralysis is.
Yeah, so sleep paralysis is basically when you're either falling asleep or waking up
Okay.
and you temporarily can't move
Okay.
or speak.
That sounds terrifying.
It can be very frightening,
Yeah.
especially the first time it happens.
Right, like you're trapped in
I've
your
seen
own
it
body.
And it's often associated
Yeah.
with that same transitional phase between sleep stages as false awakenings.
Oh, wow.
So you're kind of in that same hazy zone.
So not only can my brain convince me I'm awake when I'm not,
Right.
it can also decide to, like, I don't know, turn off my muscles
Exactly.
while we're at it.
That's exactly it.
Come on, give me a break.
Right.
One or the other.
It sounds like something straight out of a horror movie.
It really does.
But as scary as it can be,
Yeah.
it's important to remember that sleep paralysis is generally harmless.
Okay.
It's a natural phenomenon.
I mean, I'm sure it doesn't feel very harmless in the moment.
Oh, I'm sure it doesn't.
Okay.
But it's not like some supernatural force
Right.
is holding you down.
Right. It's just our brains being weird.
Exactly.
Again.
It all comes back to those brain waves and sleep cycles.
So the more we know,
Mm-hmm.
the less scary it becomes. Right.
Exactly. Knowledge is power.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that a lot.
Even when it comes to our own brains.
So you're telling me my brain can convince me I'm awake, make me feel things, even make me hallucinate sometimes, and it can all feel totally real.
It's pretty wild, right?
It's a lot to process. So who is most likely to experience these false awakenings? Is like everyone? Or are there certain people who are more prone to it?
Well, it's funny you should ask because there's not a ton of research on the demographics of false awakenings specifically.
Okay.
But what we do know is that teenagers and young adults seem to be more susceptible.
Oh, really?
Yeah, which actually tracks with what we know about sleep paralysis too.
Huh. Interesting. So maybe it's like our brains are still developing,
Yeah.
still figuring out the whole sleep-wake thing.
Yeah, like maybe as we get older, our brains get better at distinguishing between dreams and reality, or we just learn to brush it off more easily.
That's good to know because I don't want to be having those every night.
Yeah.
So is there anything we can do? Like if we're prone to these false awakenings, can we minimize them somehow?
Yeah, for sure. And this is where it gets really empowering.
Okay. I like this.
Because you're not just, along for the ride.
Yeah.
You can actually take control.
Tell me more.
So it all starts with good sleep hygiene.
Of course.
Right. Having a regular sleep schedule, going to bed and waking up around the same time each day, that can make a huge difference.
That's like I tell my kids, go to bed, get your sleep.
Exactly.
Adults need that too.
We do. We really do. And also incorporating relaxation techniques into your nighttime routine,
Okay.
like meditation, deep breathing exercises,
Yeah.
anything that can help calm your mind before you go to sleep.
So it's like we're training our brain,
Yeah, exactly.
even in our sleep.
To be more mindful, even when we're not consciously aware.
So like imagine if you could spot a false awakening as it's happening.
Right.
Like you're in it, but you're like, wait a minute.
You're like, something's not right here.
Yeah, this clock is wrong.
Exactly. And that's the power of these techniques. They can help you develop that awareness both in your waking life and your dreams.
That's pretty incredible.
It is.
So it's not just about being tricked by our brains. It's about understanding them better.
Absolutely. And if you find yourself struggling with recurring false awakenings, especially those unsettling ones,
Yeah.
dream journaling can be a really helpful tool.
I was going to ask you about that because I've heard about it, but I always thought it was more of a self-discovery thing, not necessarily something that could change your dreams.
Well, it can be both. Okay, because by writing down your dreams as soon as you wake up, you start to notice those recurring themes, those patterns that might be bubbling up from your subconscious.
Okay.
So, for example, if you keep having false awakenings about, let's say, being chased,
Yeah.
that might indicate some underlying anxiety or fear that you need to address in your waking life.
Wow, that's really interesting.
It's like our dreams are a reflection of our deepest fears, our desires, our anxieties, and by paying attention to them, we can learn a lot about ourselves.
That's amazing.
It is pretty amazing.
This has been fascinating. I mean, who knew there was so much to learn about something as simple as waking up?
Right. It just goes to show how complex our brains really are.
They're doing overtime.
They really are. Even when we're supposed to be resting, they're still hard at work creating these incredibly realistic experiences.
Well, thank you so much for taking us on this deep dive into the world of false awakenings.
My pleasure.
I know I'm going to be looking my alarm clock a little differently from now on.
Yeah.
And to all of you listening, next time you wake up, take a moment. Are you really awake? Or are you on the verge of a false awakening? Sweet dreams, everyone.